And the forecast headlines for today, mostly dry and hot today. I would give it around a 10% chance of an isolated pop-up shower today. A heat wave this weekend, mid-90s, feeling like over 100, and then relief on the way late next week. The play ball forecast. Again, let me know in the comments if you want to see a different sport. Maybe we might have to put football back here for the background because high school football, I believe, starts off next Friday. And then we get college, and then we get pro. So heading into football season here. Let me know what sport you like, and we will change it up. So around 90 degrees today, light and variable wind. And this is what we're kind of the teaser for late next week. This is Thursday, August the 21st. Look at the wind direction arrows. This is called cool air advection, CAA. In the fall or winter time, we would call this cold air advection. Hard for me to call it cold air advection because it's not going to be cold, but a little bit cooler. So that's that flow in from the Great Lakes. You can see the tropical air getting pushed a little bit farther south. So that's kind of a preview of what we're going to look at with the long range data here in just a second. So it's going to be hot out there for the Knobs Fest, but there are ways for you to cool down out there. St. Mary of the Knobs, up in the Knobs. So Saturday's the big day. Sunday, they still have a bunch of activities. Saturday, August the 16th, this Saturday, 5:30 p.m. to midnight. So in the evening time, you've got your select games and pull tabs, live music, the Juice Box Heroes, beer garden, food trucks. You had me at beer garden, gambling. They got Big Six, blackjack, tethered hot air balloons. Then Sunday, 11 to 3, the famous chicken dinner, kids zone, games of chance, games of skill, pull tabs, raffle drawings at 3 o'clock, food and ice cream outside. If you want to learn more about the big event, Knobs Fest, 812-923-2495, or you can go to www.yoursmk.org. And the Kentucky State Fair kicking off tomorrow, the 15th through the 25th. Very hot this weekend, feeling better next week. So if I were planning my visit to the Kentucky State Fair, this is just me. You can go whenever you'd like. Of course, they've got indoor AC for a large portion of it, but I would pick late next week for the Kentucky State Fair, right after the Indiana State Fair is wrapping up. We've got a couple more comments popping in before we look at some more forecast data. It's time for a coffee, cheers, and comment break. And Laura says, a little bit cooler sounds great. Again, that'll be late next week. We'll see that here in just a second. JK's can't stay now, but I will watch this later. Have a great one. Thanks for watching the replay. And thank you, whoever you might be. Drop in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from if you're watching the replay this afternoon or later on tonight. It's fun to see those numbers go up. You know, even a day later, some people are popping it. So Angela Epperson, good morning. Have an awesome day. Love football. Can't wait. So we might have to make a football background for the play ball forecast. Wendy Davis, happy Thursday to you. And cheers to you, Angela Epperson. Thanks for watching here this morning. All right, back to the forecast. How many days until? So I've just updated this morning. You're before 8 p.m. sunsets in 20 days. It's creeping up quick. Autumn begins in 39 days. That is September 22nd, the autumnal equinox, when the sun's direct rays are right over the equator. And also, equinox means equal day and night. So you've got 12 hours a night, 12 hours a day, which means our days are getting shorter as well. Average highs in the 70s in 41 days. Average highs in the 60s, that's October 19th, in 66 days. Couple months away from average highs in the 60s. And so if you're tired of the heat, we've got an August heat wave on the way. Again, we just got to wait it out a little bit. UV index, very high level of 9 today. So don't forget the shade and the sunscreen out there. And an update on the allergy report. Don't show this too often, but we are starting to creep up with the weed pollen. You got nettle, I think it's called plantain. And then ragweed is going to start to explode here very soon, too. Today's forecast for your August the 14th, a high of 90 degrees. Normal heat, mainly dry. Again, just giving it about a 10% chance of that shower today. Just a very light and variable wind. Our sunset at 8:37. And the forecast tonight with some foggy spots possible. You may saw a little valley fog this morning. Same kind of deal for tomorrow morning. So it shouldn't be a huge problem for us. And the sun up almost at 7 a.m. So the sunrises are getting a little bit later too at 6:58. Laura's saying birthday and anniversary are in October. That's a great month for both, especially around here. Friday, tomorrow's forecast for your August the 15th, 75 out the door, 88 at noon. Kind of tolerable heat and humidity, 92 degrees. Intolerable heat and humidity this weekend. Normal high is 89, so a few above that. 70 our normal low. Our sunrise again at 6:58 and setting at 8:36 tomorrow. 7-day forecast. Got a lot of sunshine through the weekend. Should be primarily dry across the area, going mid-90s, heat index around 100 plus, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, lows in the mid-70s. If you're in the concrete areas, the asphalt, the downtown spots, you might even add a couple degrees to that. 95 next Tuesday, still mostly dry. I think we're going to start to get a front to move in Wednesday, Thursday next week. That should give us a rain chance and then gradually start to drop off the humidity. So I think maybe just a tad cooler Wednesday with that chance of some showers and thunderstorms as that front approaches. Front moves south Thursday. That should start to drop off the humidity and drop us back into the 80s and maybe a couple leftover showers Thursday. So that's the initial first wave of a little bit of relief. I think the bigger relief will come the following week. Again, that's going to be around August the 25th. 10/18. That means we are about ready to dig into the weather models and start to map this stuff out. So it is fun to look at the weather models. The weather model, what are they? They are mathematics, millions of math problems and physics into computer systems that pump out the numbers, and you change those numbers into maps. And so a lot of this data we'll be looking at together for the first time and analyzing it. And then we'll dig into the longer range outlook here for us. So it might be feeling a little bit more like fall to wrap up August, which would be great. And we had a great start to August as well. We had some of that relief the first weekend of August. All right, here we go. We're moving right along here. So let me get rid of that. Let me bring this back up. And we're looking at a live look here at a little cumulus cloud there near the locks and dam and over the falls of the Ohio. Let me get rid of that, by the way, and start to bring up the data. Also, you've got this tropical storm Aaron out here that's going to turn into a hurricane, major hurricane likely, and stay off of the East Coast is the official forecast, and where pretty much all the weather models are showing it going. And then there's this little guy down here. This is called an invest, little feature here to the west of the Yucatan Peninsula. That might impact parts of northeastern Mexico, maybe southern Texas. But for us, as we zoom in, I'll try not to make you dizzy as I zoom in here. The only closest little tiny showers here west of Bowling Green. Most areas are sunny as we take a look at the current conditions across the area. Real quick, we'll look at the baseline. So you know what it feels like out there. We have dew points in the 70s. We talk about this quite a bit. So this is our dew point map. And so everything from the Great Plains east is, you know, summer wet heat. And there's a comedian on Netflix that has a special out right now that just came out called Wet Heat. I find him pretty funny. We're having a good time, if you know who that is. West of the Rockies, you got desert air. Sorry, I'm cracking myself up here. I think his name's Dusty. Check him out on Netflix. He's funny. So dew point 73. It actually feels better. Look at this. If you are in Indianapolis, the northern half of Indiana, you have dew points in the 60s. You have a different feel of air up your way. We are more tropical here in southern Indiana and Kentucky with our dew points here in the 70s, which is not extreme. I mean, we had dew points in the upper 70s, which that's what they have down here in Florida and the Gulf Coast. That's just way more tropical there. But there is slightly drier air up around I-70 and north. We're just not getting that. and bringing up the current temps across the area as well. Starting to warm up throughout the region. Look at that, Jacksonville already at 86, 88 in Miami already. That's kind of like what we had in July. We've got 81 now in Louisville. So upper 70s, low 80s in most locations right now. So that is what is happening at time 0. Now we're going to look ahead to the future radar. And if you watch the program Monday through Friday, we typically start off with the HRRR high resolution rapid refresh weather model, the HRRR weather model. And then we'll look at the NAM 3 kilometer. It's not going to show much today. I am way more interested in the relief that we see down the road. And Laura saying, how long will the cool down last next week? So I think that's a good question, Laura, because I think the cool down is going to be a little cool down, brief, maybe for a couple days late next week. Then it kind of gets a little more humid ahead of a front that may give us some rain maybe around Sunday or so. And then the following Monday, the 25th, that could be a long-lasting weather pattern change, a gift from Canada, so to speak, where we might have longer-lasting relief for the last week of August. Kind of what the long-range data is showing so far. We've got a good morning from Sulphur, Indiana. Good morning to you, Mary. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for dropping in the comments there. Now, let's go ahead and look ahead here with the HRRR weather model. Let's see if anything pops up. Oh, there's a little thing. That's at 2 o'clock. Now, will that happen right there? Probably not. Like, it's just showing that there's a chance at some isolated location, there might be a little isolated pop-up. That's why I went 10% chance for today. This is at 3 o'clock. And it looks like, if you notice, nothing pops up over southern Indiana. Kentucky, a little better chance, that 10% chance, mostly in Kentucky. This is around 5 o'clock. There is not much out there. We actually have a little bit of some dry air coming in that will prevent storm development for today. Not dry air at the surface, I would like to say. This would be more towards the upper levels of the atmosphere, mid-levels, upper levels. So take a look at this. So this is the precipitable water. It takes into account the surface, but also throughout the depth of the atmosphere. And so this is right now. You can see it is way more tropical throughout the depth of the atmosphere down south. I just love the look of the colors with the precipitable water and how well it like delineates tropical from less tropical air. So this is at 4 p.m. today. Now, I wish I could say that this would be like really refreshing air. Let's look at this. Let's do a little analysis real quick. So that looks nice, right? This looks really, really nice. And now for northern half of Indiana, that would be refreshing. Tropical air down here. This is for this afternoon, by the way. The problem is at the surface, we still have the mugginess. This is reflecting some dry air coming in at the higher levels. So what that's going to do is kind of cut off our rain chances for today. That's kind of the function of that layer of dry air. Now, I do believe, again, late next week, we'll start to see some drier air at the surface as well. Oops, still making drawings here. Let me erase that. So that's the precipitable water out there. Again, I like how just high resolution this looks, showing the water amount. So the precipitable water, by the way, it takes the column of the atmosphere. You're looking at the total amount of moisture, water content, H2O, that if you had a system that could give you some precipitation, it would wring out the atmosphere, and that's how much rain you could get. So you can see that the atmosphere is more water loaded over the south and southeast, and then much drier to the north. Okay, let's go back to the NAM 3 kilometer. As we saw with the HRRR weather model, it only showed like a little tiny chance of a pop-up shower today. We're going back to the reflectivity here on our August 14th. It is 10:26 a.m. when we start to dig into the weather models. And of course, if you have any weather questions, just drop them in the comments. Don't be shy there. I agree with you, Laura, here. putting in my order for not too cold, but upper 70s, low 80s, low humidity would be nice. I agree. And again, maybe we'll start to see that the last week of August. This is at 3 o'clock with an AM 3 kilometer. It really isn't showing anything. Can we get a single little pop-up shower? Maybe late afternoon. It's trying to develop some cumulus clouds that might grow big enough. Once again, it shows Louisville with this teeny tiny chance of a late afternoon evening shower. So again, that's why we got the 10% chance today. Most locations staying dry. And this is here towards sunset. Not much happening with that. Okay, so now we are going to start to talk about the long range data, and it's going to be a treat because we actually get to talk about good stuff here. And when we talk about the far out weather model data, this is what it means. All right, hopefully I don't fall off that branch there. All right, we're looking at the long range data, and we're going to bring up the GFS weather model. And before I do that, I'm going to bring up the Climate Prediction Center, the CPC. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook. We like that, right? So this is looking just past this, right around the end of the 7-day forecast. And it is showing this little wedge of cooler air trying to move into our area. We're right on the line. We're right on the line. And then a heat wave getting pushed out to the west. That would be late next week. So we're trying to get that little wedge of cooler air, drier air to drop our direction. So late next week with that time frame there from the Climate Prediction Center. And then as we bring up the 8 to 14 day outlook, that's what we're talking about. So this is a reflection, I would say, of the European weather model, the GFS weather model, and the data that I've seen this morning, that last week of August, that shows above normal chances of below normal temperatures. And for Laura popping in the comments, that would mean maybe some upper 70s, low 80s to finish off August. That's the good news that we're looking for. Now, so don't be surprised here. This is the Storm Prediction Center's day one severe weather outlook. That would be up in northern Minnesota and eastern South Dakota. And then day two, almost no risk of severe weather. There's just not much happening. This is not severe weather season. And you don't see this very often. Day three has no risk of severe weather over the continental United States from coast to coast and border to border. It is very quiet out there. All right, bringing back up the weather model data, the future radar, but actually I'm going to switch this over to first to look at the temperatures and the heat wave that is on the way for today. Oops, let me pick the model first. I know people pop in at different times in the weather show, so we will get back to the forecast here right after we look at the weather, break down the weather model data. So this is today, this afternoon, and it shows, again, pretty normal heat, nothing too crazy, upper 80s, low 90s around the area, around the region. But hot weather for much of the United States. So you're looking at heat index values hotter, obviously off to the south. Getting into our Friday tomorrow, the 15th. Still not, crazy heat. Low 90s, heat index mid 90s for our Friday. And then as we get into Saturday, the heat begins to build across the area. This is going to be the 16th. Getting hotter. And we go into the 17th. I think I've got on the 17th Sunday, I've got like a high of around 96. So an August heat wave for us for this weekend, and it's putting your heat index values around 100 or so. So there we go. Getting through a heat wave this weekend. I'm going to push this to Tuesday the 19th because nothing is changing here. So we're still looking pretty hot all across the region. There you can see triple-digit heat index numbers into early next week. Hot stuff all around the region. So this is the heat wave that really kicks in. I would say normal heat tomorrow, but then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, heat wave, mid-90s, heat index, or around 100 or above. So kind of a 4-day heat wave. Now we need to get into Wednesday, or I would call Wednesday maybe our day of change on the 20th. This is when we start to see this front moving into the region. So this shows the change on the way. This would be our transition day. As this front drops into the region, it should give us a chance of rain and then eventually some cooler temperatures as well. So there you can see, obviously much cooler to the north and starting to look a little bit better. It really is just kind of from north to south, the transition day of starting to feel better across the area. So this is, again, a week from now, next Wednesday, Thursday is what we're looking at for that potential relief on the way. Now, Thursday, the 21st. There you can see that front. Can we get the front to move through? That's the big question here. So it's kind of just like that. And look at these numbers. So a lot of the Hoosier State looking a lot better. Question how far south we can get this cool air to move. Notice the Commonwealth, Kentucky, staying a bit hotter. So Thursday, now take into account, so you got the temperature drop, yes. But what about the drier air, which makes a whole huge difference across the region? Oops. Clear that out. So not a huge drop in that drier air next Thursday. You see the real dry air, as I back up our view here, still off to the north. So we need that to drop in over us. So I'm going to go to the 22nd. So that would start to take us into next Friday, the 22nd. Still looking a little bit humid across the area, not crazy humidity, dew points in the 60s. That's going to feel a whole lot better, again, late next week if we can get that dry air to drop in. Now, as I mentioned, I think that relief comes in a couple stages. Little relief late next week, bigger relief the following week. So let me take you to like next Sunday, Monday. So that would be 24th into the 25th of August. So this is the 24th. This is a more significant front that the Euro, the Canadian, and the GFS are showing for the last week of August, 24th, 25th. So we might still have that humidity over the area next weekend as well. But then as we go to Monday, can we get it to move through? This is the 25th. And there you go. That would be what we're looking for right there. That would be a game changer, a weather pattern change, huge, big time. Dew points in the 40s and 50s. That is the fall-like air that you might see all over Facebook over the next week and a half or so.